Good afternoon, Louisiana. Welcome to a special edition of Bayou Bets. I'm Zach Ewing with our special guest, Trey Wingo, the Senior Trends Officer for Caesars Sportsbook and former SportsCenter anchor. Trey, how are you today?
Zach, always good to be with you. Always good to be talking with the good folks of New Orleans. I'm spending way too much time down there, which is actually a good thing. So always good to reconnect.
Yeah, I was going to say, define too much.
Yeah, it's about, your liver will tell you when it's time to tap out. So that's sort of the way it goes. We were down there for a while for the Final Four, which was an absolute blast. And again, I'll say this, and I'm not pandering, every major sporting event should take place in New Orleans. It is the absolute perfect setup. You have everything right downtown. Like, it's been far too long since the Super Bowl's been there. Looking forward to getting back there. But just being there for the Final Four was absolutely amazing. I was there pre-pandemic for the national championship game between LSU, obviously a home team, and the defending champion Clemson Tigers. It's just a perfect setup. So any excuse I have to get down to New Orleans, I'm always going to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe not in the summertime. We've got 92 with a 102 heat index right now, but
and
90%
humidity and 90% humidity. Yeah,
that's right. Just to remind everyone, we are brought to you by Tulane Doctors, innovative research, inspired patient care. Visit TulaneDoctors.com. We're also powered, of course, by Caesars Sportsbook. You can get your promo if you are a new user. First bet insured up to $1,100. And on top of that, Trey, we also have a special boost for the PGA Championship that we'll be talking about. So go to NOLA.com/Caesars to get that offer there for the $1,100 boost. But we are 2 days away from the PGA Championship. And it's, I don't know, people who aren't golf fans, I don't think understand. You know about the Masters, you know about the U.S. Open, the Open Championship in Britain. The PGA Championship is a damn good tournament.
Yeah, listen, it's one of the four majors. It used to have that sort of, for lack of a better term, oh yeah, there's another one feel when it was in August. Because like you said, you had the Masters and then you had the U.S. Open in June and the Open Championship, or what we call the British Open here in July, which is outside of the Olympics, the oldest competition that we have basically in Western civilization. So, and then it was like, oh yeah, and then there's the PGA Championship. So I think by reconnoitering the schedule, and it's been this way for 3 or 4 years now, where you really have 4 straight months of majors. You have the Masters in April, now the PGA Championship in May, the U.S. Open in June, and the Open Championship in July. I think it gives it a little more luster. It's always had one of the better fields in all 4 majors, because obviously the Masters is an invitation only. And then there's a little more of a way to get in and qualify for the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. So the PGA Championship and the winner of the Wanamaker Trophy almost routinely has to go through the best field in terms of the highest number of quality players in the field. And that's no different this week at all at Southern Hills.
And we'll get into how that may affect the odds and who may have a leg up, because some guys just do better against more difficult fields than as opposed to, say, and more difficult courses, say, as opposed to last week at TPC Craig Ranch, where if you weren't birdieing, you were being left in the dust. So we'll get to the odds. A couple of storylines. Of course, Tiger is playing, and he is always going to dominate headlines. And we'll talk Tiger. Perhaps just as big of a story is that Phil is not playing. The defending
champion. It's a bigger story. I think it's a bigger story, actually, Zach. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think that the idea that so much has changed. It was a year ago that he had the win of his career. Like, I know he's had 5 other majors, and he won the Open Championship in 2013 that no one ever thought he would win. And obviously he's won the Masters 3 times. But to do what he did last year at Kiowa on the longest course in the major championship history against the toughest field, and to win the way he did was the career achievement of a lifetime. And, you know, he's now the oldest player ever to win a major. He won it at the age of 50. And for him to not be there, and for the reasons why he's not there, I think it is a much more massive story, even than Tiger's comeback. Like, it started with Augusta in April, and now he looks to be in good shape, a little bit better shape than he was at the Masters. But Phil not being there, I think, is a massive story.
And for those who don't follow golf very closely, there's sort of been this, I don't know if it's the right word to say, flirtation with a Saudi Arabian tour that would essentially replace a big chunk of the PGA Tour, pay bigger purses, play more of an international schedule. And Phil
Yeah.
has really been leading the charge of people saying, why don't we do this? Despite human rights concerns, despite other concerns we may have about Saudi Arabia. And so he's not there. I believe Alan Shipnick's book is coming out tomorrow.
Correct. It's coming
It
out
has
this
a lot
week.
of these comments. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, Phil has not only flirted with him, he's going to be there. I mean, he's going to be part of it. It's called Live Golf, LIV. And just so people understand, it's called that because LIV is also the Roman number for 54. And then a perfect round is 18 birdies on par 72 would be 54. And so it's sort of an interesting combination of the idea of 54 and live golf as in like live your life and sort of live your life by playing golf. And it's a really complicated issue. Like Phil is already really tied into this league. He's become a spokesman. He's been a recruiter. The league is going to go off. It's just a matter of the legal ramifications now, because this is now going to be a court battle between the PGA Tour and the players that want to play on the Live Golf Tour. And it's going to be interesting because both sides, both the PGA Tour and Live Golf, believe that the law is on their side. I tend to believe that the law is on the Live Golf side because these are professional. These aren't full-time employees of the PGA Tour. They're independent contractors. So, and they are allowed to play on the Asian Tour, and they're allowed to play on the South American Tour, and they're allowed to play on the European Tour and the Canadian Tour, all these other tours across the world. So the PGA is saying you can't play in this one, and they're not doing it for a moral reason. Let's be clear. The PGA is not doing this as some sort of moral reason. They can use the morals to sort of make themselves feel better about it, and I understand that. But they're not doing it for moral reasons. They're doing it for competitive reasons. They're doing it for monopolistic reasons. They're doing it for capitalistic reasons. They know that if this league gets up and running and they are going to pay a lot more money, people are going to want to play on it. And then they're going to have an issue. Like nobody on the Live Golf side has said, if you play with us, you can't play on the PGA Tour. They're like, hey, go play wherever you want. We just want you to play in these events. And now the golfers have to make a choice. You know, it's almost like, for lack of a better term, a Curt Flood scenario in baseball. There's going to have to be someone without the ramifications of losing his career. There's going to be someone who has to say, I think what the PGA Tour is doing is wrong. I think that you can't have exert this control over me, and I'm going to take you to court. And I believe once it goes to court, the PGA Tour, I think, has lost every court case they've ever had. And I don't see that changing with this scenario. But someone's got to step up and want to be that guy. It may be Phil. It may be somebody else because the tour is denying them their releases to go play on this other tour, which I really don't think they can do. So now it's going to be a court battle. And Phil has sort of been the figurehead. And obviously the comments that he made to Alan Shipnuck that were released in late December or early January were not good. Greg Norman, who, the first event of the Live Golf Tour is going to be in London, and they had a press conference there this week. His comments were horrendous. If you haven't heard them, it's like they talked about the killing of the journalist by the Saudi government and said, well, everybody makes mistakes. That's not a mistake. That's a felony, and it's a crime, and it's a hideous crime. I mean, so this tour is going to go off, and I believe it's going to be successful, but they need to do a really better job of shaping their narrative around this tour.
Yeah, I mean, I think the possibility exists that we won't see Phil Mickelson, I don't want to say ever again at a major tournament. I mean, the Masters and British Open are run by different organizations, but certainly he's put himself in that position.
He has. I mean, look, the PGA Tour was the PGA Championship, excuse me, not the PGA Tour, the PGA Championship. And people should know the PGA Championship and the PGA is a different organization than the PGA Tour. The PGA is the Professional Golfers of America. And that's basically, every teaching pro, every pro at your country club is a member of the PGA. And then there's the PGA Tour, which is all the professional golfers who go around and travel at all these events and make money playing for a living. So those are two separate entities. But the PGA itself was the one that announced that Phil wasn't going to be there at Southern Hills this week. And remember, they said in that release, we would have welcomed him to play. So it wasn't that he was not allowed to play, because even if he was, quote unquote, suspended by the PGA Tour, that wouldn't have, the PGA would have overriding decision-making over the PGA Tour on their championship. So even if he is secretly suspended by the PGA Tour, which I don't think he is, I think he's just trying to figure out how he climbs out of this hole that he's put himself in. He would have been welcome to play, and he's not there. And it wasn't even him that made the announcement, which was the weird part. It was the PGA Championship making the announcement that he wasn't there.
Yeah, it's a bit of foot and mouth disease, but let's get to the tournament. And speaking of making money, maybe people can make some money on this thing. Obviously, We talked about this on Bayou Bets yesterday. Anytime you bet a golf tournament, the odds are going to be in your favor. The hard part is actually deciding who you think is going to win. And all the big names, of course, at a major are there. Scottie Scheffler, an amazing year, the Masters champion already. He's your favorite at 11-1. Jon Rahm has been the world's number one player before Scheffler. Justin Thomas has been great. Rory McIlroy was great at the Masters. When you look at these favorites, any trends that you see, Trey, that point in the direction of a couple of them?
Well, listen, Scottie Scheffler's been on one of the greatest heaters of all time this year. I think he's won like 29% of his starts. He won 4 tournaments in 57 days, including the Masters. There's no flaw in his game. I was talking to Mark Rolfing from the Golf Channel and NBC just a few days ago, and I said, "What is it about Scheffler's game?" And he said, "Everything." Before he can even finish the sentence, like, "What is it about Scheffler's game that makes him so good?" The answer was everything. Like, he doesn't have a weakness in his game. That's why he's at plus 1100 there. So he would be certainly one that's fascinating. To me, the most fascinating guy on the board you're looking at now is Jordan Spieth. He came within one shot of winning the Byron Nelson at the Birdie Fest we just talked about last week. He is the PGA Championship shy of being the 6th player ever to complete the career Grand Slam, which is to win all 4 major championships in your career. He would be joined by Gene Sarazen, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and who am I missing? Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. I'm missing somebody. That's ridiculous. I can't believe I'm missing.
This is live television for you.
Yeah. Well, it's live internet something, whatever it is. Yeah, I can't remember who the other one is. He'd be the 6th.
Did you say Ben Hogan? Did you?
I did not say Hogan. It was Hogan. Thank you very much. And Ben Hogan won the one Open Championship. He played at Muirfield in the 50s, or at Carnoustie rather. Excuse me, at Carnoustie. So yeah, you would be Gene Sarazen, Hogan, Player, Nicklaus, and Tiger, and then Jordan Spieth would be the 6th. And of course, later on in the year, and we might talk about that if you have me back on, Rory McIlroy is a Masters away from completing the career Grand Slam. And his issue, like McIlroy is fascinating in this, right? If you look at his starts, his starts are what kill him. I mean, for the longest time, I want to make sure I get these numbers right here. He just can't get out of his way in the first round. Like, after the first round, he is a phenomenal player in majors, but he has, for lack of a better term, he has first round itis. I want to make sure I get these numbers for you here. Really, just want to make sure I get this exactly right. Rory McIlroy in majors since 2015. In round 1, he's 35 over, an average of 72.33, and only has 18.5% of his rounds in the 60s. But in rounds 2 through 4 since 2015, he's 68 under par. His average round is 70, and he has 42% of his rounds in the 60s. Wow. Rory has first round itis in majors. If he can just figure out a way to not blow up in the first round, he's going to be in contention in every major. And if he can just get around, let's just say he shoots level par, that would be a victory for him on Thursday at Southern Hills. And if he shoots 70, I think he has a great chance to win. He's just got to get through that first round for whatever reason, much in the same way Tiger hates the first hole at Augusta. Like, if Tiger didn't have to play holes 1, 4, and 5 at Augusta, he'd have won 12 green jackets by now. I think he's a combined like 60-something over on those 3 holes alone. It's really fascinating. And Rory has the issue with the first round. He just cannot get out of his own way in the first round of a major. And that's why, his odds aren't better than they should be, quite frankly.
Reminds me a little bit of Greg Maddux used to blow up in the first inning. If you didn't get in the first inning,
exactly right.
You were done.
And one of the greatest pitchers of all time. It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Don't know if that is that a nerves thing. Is that just I'm?
Yes, they're all like it is. That's the thing. Like, we look at those guys and we think that they're just steel underneath, and a lot of them are. But they have the nerves. Like Tiger, a lot of times in majors, when he was on a roll, the first tee was a problem for him. The first hole was a problem. Even when he won the 2008 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, I believe in the first 2 rounds, he played the first hole there in 4 over par. I think he had a triple bogey 7 in the first round and at least a bogey in the second round. So like when he made par on the playoff hole, the first playoff hole with Rocco Mediate that year, everybody cheered because he finally figured out a way to hit the fairway and hit the green. That was crazy.
And I mean, it's interesting you say that, because one of the trends of this tournament that's been talked about this week, the PGA Championship, unlike many other tournaments, has a tendency, it's very difficult to come from behind. The first round leader, the second round leader especially, they go on to win this tournament really more often than not, if you're talking about the second round leader, which is rare in golf. And so I know I don't believe it's up anymore, but we had a Trey Wingo boost up on Caesar Sportsbook.
Yeah.
Will there be a wire-to-wire leader for 15-1? I think it's 10-1 normally, so you can still bet it. But this is a tournament where a bet like that is actually worth a shot.
Yeah, it actually is. And it's happened 5 times. The last one to do it was Brooks Koepka in 2019 at Bethpage Black in New York. He was wired a winner. And Brooks is one of those guys that's really an interesting guy because he doesn't play well outside of the majors, but he plays great when the majors are around. You know, he's got 2 U.S. Opens back-to-back. He won PGA Championships back-to-back. He's an interesting cat. He's an interesting character. And he's one of those guys, he really, a lot of people that play love golf. I think Brooks likes golf. Like he's always said he'd rather be a baseball player. He's one of those annoying people that's really good at a couple of sports, like Gary Woodland, who won the 2019 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. He would have preferred to be a basketball player, but he went to a small school in Kansas. I can't remember which one, or maybe it was Missouri. They played the University of Kansas, and he realized, I'm not going to be any good at basketball. Maybe I better concentrate on playing on the PGA Tour. It's worked out well for him, as we said, a major winner. So, but Brooks is one of those annoying guys that is really good at a lot of sports, and if he had his druthers, he would probably be a baseball player, most notably a pitcher. But when the stakes are big, you cannot count Brooks Koepka out, and that's why I do think that the boost that we put up there at 15-1 is a really interesting bet for Koepka, because he knows how to win a PGA and he knows how to maintain that lead wire to wire. He did it a couple of years ago.
But the rest of this leaderboard, interesting. Collin Morikawa feels like a guy being overlooked just a little bit. He's a major winner.
Maybe.
Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele there at the bottom, they were down here and teamed up to just obliterate TPC Louisiana, won the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. So a lot of options. We move on to page 2, and you mentioned Koepka. He's there at 35-1 at Caesars. There's just a lot of big names on this list, from like 25-1 to 65-1. You see Tiger there at 60-1. Bryson DeChambeau, who the heck knows what that guy will do. This is where you really can kind of take your darts and throw them.
Well, listen, there's 3 names on that list, and keep that up for a second, that really stand out. And just so you know, somebody put $20,000 on Tiger to win. So if he wins, that's a payout of $1.2 million at Caesars. Someone has put that bet in, so I find that fascinating. But there's 3 names that I want your listeners and viewers to focus on here. First of all, Tony Finau, 4,500. Tony is a guy who, when he's hot, no one's hotter. Okay, so if this, like sometimes, even a major championship. Last year at Kiowa, it was a birdie fest. You know, even though it was the longest course in major history, it turned out to be a birdie fest. If for whatever reason the rough isn't too bad and this turns out to be a birdie fest this week, Tony Finau's a guy to keep your eyes on. Just below him on the board, you're seeing at plus 5,500 is Max Homa. Homa is fascinating. He's won 4 times now on tour. He's won a couple of times this year. Here's the thing about Max. He's developing a reputation as a closer. I think he has 3 top 10s this year, and 2 of them are wins. The point being, when he's in contention, he finds a way to seal the deal. And the best thing you can be, to me, as a golfer, is a closer. You have to win a lot, but when you have the opportunity to win and you can cash in, that speaks volumes to me. So those 2 names on the board also jump off to me. And then there's this kid, Will Zalatoris. Zalatoris tied for 8th in his only PGA Championship last year. He has just ungodly amounts of talent, and it's just a matter of time before he breaks through and gets that first win. He's a kid from Dallas, even though he went to school in California, Northern California. But he's a kid from Dallas, and obviously Southern Hills isn't too far away from there. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the Texas players play really well at Southern Hills. It's a course that suits their eye. It's a course that's very familiar with how they grew up playing golf. And Zalatoris is a guy that I think is very, very interesting on that list.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, there is a special promotion at Caesars. We mentioned If you haven't signed up, go to NOLA.com/Caesars. But this is also for existing users. So if you've already signed up, and it's slightly complicated, but what happens is if you bet at least $10 on any golfer to win, and he doesn't win but finishes top 5, so you basically come close but no cigar, you get a free bet, double your stake. So if you bet $10 on Tiger to win at 60-1, if he wins, well, that's $600. If he loses, you get a $20 free bet. So that's the way that works. It's a pretty cool deal. So go, if you haven't signed up, again, NOLA.com/Caesars. If you have, that deal is still good for you. Just go under the promo tab at Caesars Sportsbook, and it's there for you. Trey, we'll talk some long shots. Just kind of, I cherry picked some names here. Seb Munoz he shot a 60 last week. He's there. You see Tom Hoagie has played well this year. He hasn't won, but 150-1. I mean, you can really make some money if you can pick one of these names out of a hat. Yeah,
Hoagie's interesting. Bubba's interesting. Bubba really hasn't been in contention much. I tell you what, a name I really like there is Harold Varner. This kid has been knocking on the door a couple of times. He won overseas this year for his first professional win since being a member of the PGA Tour. Harold has an amazing game, and people forget in the final round of the PGA Championship in 2019 that Koepka went on to win. Harold Varner was in the final pairing that day and just came up a little short. I was talking to him after that round because he hit his tee shot on the first hole, and it was so far right. And the announcers were like, oh, that's out of bounds. And Harold was like, Trey, I knew it was the best drive I've ever hit. He ended up like 40, 50 yards short of the green. He just crunched it. He's a guy who has a lot of game. He has a lot of attitude that I like about him. Harold's a guy that would be worth your while to take a flyer at here. He's going to win sooner rather than later on the tour. He's played pretty well. He almost broke through at the RBC Heritage at Harbortown a few weeks ago. Harold's a guy, if you're looking for a long shot, Harold Varner would be a guy that I would feel very comfortable putting some money on.
And I mean, again, the great thing about that is you literally put $1 on him to win 100. I mean, if he comes through for you, it doesn't cost you anything but 4 quarters. So pretty cool deal there. We would be remiss if we did not talk about Tiger. He came back at the Masters. That was obviously a huge story. I think even though he faded on the weekend, you got to consider it a success. He made the cut. He played all 4 rounds. You say he's in better shape now, and that may be true. He also doesn't have maybe the experience edge he did at Augusta. He did win at Southern Hills in 2007. Yeah. It's undergone a redesign since then, and obviously he's different, and the course is different. So who knows how much that means. But here's what you can bet on for Tiger.
Yeah, look, I think people need to understand what he did at Augusta was flat out ridiculous. Let's just put this in some sort of context, okay? He hadn't played in 17 months competitively. He went through his 5th back surgery. 5th back surgery. I want to reiterate that. His 5th back surgery, a month before the car crash that also killed him. So we're talking 17 months away from competitive golf. A 5th back surgery. And I have a buddy of mine that I do a show with on Spotify Live. It was my work wife at ESPN for 15 years named Mark Schlereth, who had 29 surgeries in his career. He said, Trey, I had 16 surgeries on my right knee or left knee and 1 back surgery. I would trade all 16. I would do all 16 knee surgeries again instead of having that 1 back surgery. It was the worst. Wow. So we're talking about a guy who has 5 back surgeries, then a car crash that almost claimed his life, almost had to amputate his leg, 17 months away from competitive golf, comes back to Augusta. I don't say it's the toughest. I say it's one of the trickiest golf courses you can play. And shot under par in the first round and made the cut. It's remarkable. No one else would do that. Like, no one else would even think about coming back and trying to make Augusta your first place where you come back on tour. The fact that he made the cut is ridiculous. And I'll also tell you this. Augusta is the hardest walk in golf every year. People don't understand. Like the course at Brookline, where we have the U.S. Open this year outside Massachusetts, it's pretty hilly, but you don't play that every year. Every year outside of Kapalua, where I am now, and they play the Century in January, those are the 2 hilliest golf courses you can climb on the PGA Tour. And the fact that Tiger made his return at Augusta and made the cut is ridiculous. Having said that, I don't expect him to win, but I would not be surprised if he plays very well and puts himself in an opportunity to win. The fact that he made the cut And the fact that he was around all four days at Augusta was ridiculous. I put nothing past him. I mean, when people ask for what's realistic with Tiger Woods, I'm saying, well, you're talking to an unrealistic human being. Like all the things he's done in his career, the good and the bad, no one should be able to do, yet he finds a way to pull it off. So when people say what's realistic for Tiger Woods, the answer is everything and anything is realistic for Tiger Woods.
I mean, the mental strength of this guy is just phenomenal. Yeah. Like you can't count him out because of that. However, from an odds perspective, here's the thing about odds: 1,000 people bet on him to win, the odds are going to go down. That's just how it works. Yeah. And so you maybe not getting that kind of value. However, you can live bet this tournament at Caesars too. Maybe we have a situation where he falls behind in the first day, and you can bet him live and get a better number than 60-1. That is certainly possible. So, any other thoughts on the PGA, Trey? I did want to touch on the Saints offseason. I know I was listening to you and Schlereth yesterday, and the NFL dominates everything, and I almost wish it wasn't that way because, God, look, guys, there's a lot of other good stuff going on right now, but that this is what we all love. And so, anything else on the PGA before we quickly move on?
No, I think, listen, the only thing I'm just, and for those that are not huge golf fans, again, it used to be, Nick was winging, Tiger, Jordan, and Rory pair for the first time, so there'll be no pressure on the other players because everyone will be following. That's true. That's absolutely true. Like, by the way, to that point, Nick, literally, I'm convinced if you're playing with Tiger Woods, you could play naked with your butt spray painted blue and no one would notice because everyone would watch Tiger Woods. Like they wouldn't even know that you were naked with a spray painted blue butt. No one would notice because everybody would be on Tiger Woods. I will say this: I'm curious to see how long this format lasts because I know a lot of the top players do not like the 4-month run, April, May, June, July. They liked it when it was spaced out a little bit. It gave them time to prepare. And that's why when I talk about Tiger, I think he'll always have his best chance to win his last or his next major at Augusta because this schedule does not allow him to recuperate, recover, and prepare. He can do that and play a couple of events before Augusta. His body won't allow him to do that for any of the other majors, the way this thing is set up. So I'm curious how long before the players say, guys, well, you love this little ramp up. It was way better for us when it was April, June, July, and August. It gave us a little breathing room before everything else. So we'll see how long before. I believe that will change again.
Okay, interesting. Real quickly on the NBA playoffs, I just want to throw the odds up here for the title. The conference finals begin tonight in Miami. Trey, what was your level of surprise? Because to me, and I've been doing this professionally, not as long as you have, but for a while, for the Phoenix Suns, the team with the best record in the NBA, the best team all year long, we're in the finals last year, not just to lose Game 7. I mean, strange things happen. Teams play great. To get throttled in Game 7. I mean, it wasn't. It was over at halftime.
Yeah,
that had to be up there. Yeah,
Luka had, I think, as many points or more points than the Suns did at the half. They had 27. And then Patrick Beverley comes out and goes completely scorched earth on Chris Paul. Obviously, they have a lot of problems in Phoenix, and we thought they were going to win it all last year, and Giannis and company fought back. They have real issues. Chris Paul says he doesn't want to retire. Well, there's two ways to leave the league, right? You either retire or someone retires you. That's a tough one for him to come back from at the age of 38. They have a lot of other issues that they have to deal with, whether or not DeAndre Ayton stays there. But whatever we thought of this little sort of run the last couple of years for Phoenix, I think it's all coming to a crashing halt pretty soon. They put out this statement on Twitter about, we expect better and thank you for your support. And their own fans just roasted them. So I think there could be massive upheaval after what we saw in Game 7 for the Phoenix Suns going forward.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly for sure. Okay, on to the Saints. And again, this is what people want to hear even in the middle of May.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a coincidence, maybe it's not. But Sean Payton leaves New Orleans, and all of a sudden the Saints have the offseason where they do everything the fans wanted them to do, which had never happened before. They flirted with Deshaun Watson, didn't end up with him, but Jameis Winston comes back. Then they go get the Honey Badger and they go get Juice Landry, the two LSU legends coming back home, both New Orleans natives. They're doing everything their fans want. The question is it going to work?
Well, listen, they played really well last year until Jameis got hurt. Right? I think they were 6-2 when they beat the Bucs in New Orleans, and he tore the ACL in that game. In the regular season, they've never lost to the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers. The only loss was in the playoffs the year that the Bucs won the Super Bowl. They've swept them 2 straight years. They shut out the Bucs on that crazy Sunday night game in Tampa Bay last year. I believe that Jameis is perfectly good enough. I do not think Drew Brees is coming back. I think that was in jest. And by the way, you're 43 years old. You haven't played in almost 17 months, and you just had shoulder surgery. You're not playing. So let's move on from there. To me, the key to the Saints' success this season is one person, Alvin Kamara. How long is this suspension? He's going to be suspended. It's going to be a lengthy one. This just in, if you want to favor Curry with the NFL for a transgression, don't do it at the Pro Bowl. Don't do it. Don't do it at an NFL marquee event right there. Really dumb. Because Kamara is the one guy you can't scheme for, right? Like, even if Michael Thomas comes back, you can scheme for Michael Thomas. Like, we know what Michael Thomas is. He's a really good receiver. He's not a Tyreek type receiver. He's not a game breaker. He's a move the chains guy. He's not a game breaker. He's a really good receiver. He's just not a game breaker. So the one guy you can scheme for and he can break the scheme, that's Alvin Kamara. If he's suspended 7, 10 games, the Saints are in real trouble. If it's a short suspension, I think the Saints have a really good opportunity to do really well. Forget, like, for example, the last 2 seasons, they're 4-0 in the regular season, and Tampa Bay's 24-5 against everybody else in the league. They've got the secret sauce. They figured out the code for the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers. The biggest issue for me is how long Kamara is suspended for, because he's the guy that you can't account for. We saw the 5-touchdown game, rather, a couple of years ago on Christmas Day. The guy is just, I call him a cephalopod because he just is sort of shifty. You never get a clean hit on Alvin Kamara. He starts to slip away from everything. Kamara is the key to everything for New Orleans, and his suspension will determine what are realistic expectations, in my mind, for their long-term success in 2022.
And to your point, I mean, his court case has been delayed to August. And so if the suspension is delayed further, it kind of depends on when it lands, too. The Saints' schedule is such that the front half is easier than the back half. The back half, they've got weeks where they play the Rams, followed by at San Francisco, followed by at Tampa Bay. A couple of weeks after that, at Cleveland, at Philly. I mean, and these are mostly road games late in the year. So if Kamara is suspended for the first half, but you start losing games because he's not there. And by the way, when they slumped last year, yes, Jameis was hurt, but Kamara was hurt too. And so a lot of that, you can debate whether it was because Kamara or Jameis was gone, or the combination of the two. But I do think it's an exciting time for the Saints, and curious from a national perspective. Obviously, people around here, they broke the NFL apparel website when Tyrann Mathieu was signed. Everybody trying to get his jersey. Everybody trying to get Jarvis Landry's jersey. Do those seem like fits to you besides the LSU angle?
Yes, absolutely. It's like Melvin Ingram going to the Dolphins. Like, he's a really good player, and if you put him in perfect situations, he'll be fine. The Saints have a really good defense. They've turned into a defensive team over the last couple of years. For all the Drew Brees years and all the records and the 5,000 passing yard seasons and all the records that he had until Tom Brady decided to play till he was 94 and break them all. That was their identity. This is a defensive-driven football team. Tyrann Mathieu is a perfect fit for what they want to do, and Dennis Allen knows that. And Jarvis Landry, again, a really good underneath guy. He's not a game breaker. He's not an over-the-top guy. They're hoping that'll be Chris Olave, the wide receiver they drafted in the first round out of Ohio State. They're going to be a team where their defense keeps them in games, and they want their offense to do just enough. And those 2 signings, I think, are going to help both of those things happen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Trey Wingo, the Caesars Senior Trends Officer and former ESPN SportsCenter anchor. We appreciate your time, Trey.
You got it, man. Anytime, Zach.
All right, this has been a special edition of Bayou Bets, and I'm sure we'll hopefully talk to Trey later in the summer and into the fall when we actually have some football games to talk to. And until then, everybody, that's Trey, I'm Zach, and we'll see you next time.